this broadcast all week. Graham, Isaac, good morning. Are we well, Graham?
I'm feeling extremely well, Max, and really pleased to be here joining you today as well. So really looking forward to this session.
Excellent.
Morning,
Isaac,
Max.
yourself?
All good, all good. The sun is shining in the tropical south, so yeah, got the woods lined up, got the meats lined up, so we'll have a few braais this weekend.
Fantastic. Someone's here. We're right, everyone. We're just waiting for our social media to kick in before we go fully live on this AHDB Talking Leaders series. Isaac, can you remember? Mark is always better than you and I. How many of these have we done? Because this must be
we're in our third season, so I think this might be the 30th or 31st. So we've been going for a while. Yeah.
Look at that, Graham. You're our 30th. You're our 30th individual to have on, not victim. You're our 30th individual to have on. So it's a pleasure to have you on. And gentlemen, all the social media is now live. So let's start this properly. Hello, everyone. My name is Max McGillivray from Beanstalk Global. Absolute pleasure to be on today with the AHDB Talking Leaders series. And as I said earlier in our preamble, really excited about today because of Graham. Graham Wilkinson is the CEO of the AHDB, and we're going to be talking around this title of Leadership is a Momentum Game, Reflections from the First 90 Days in Office, the first 90 days in office for Graham. Really keen to just give a bit of a background to this, especially to those people on the podcast and also those listening into AHDB live on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, and the other platforms. We wanted to catch up with Graham to reflect on his journey through the pivotal first 90 days in office, much like the pressure faced by senior level business executives and, of course, the likes of politicians. Graham's early actions will have a disproportionate impact on the AHDB's trajectory. We want to reflect on his initial challenges, accomplishments, and the lessons learned during this crucial period. We want to hear Graham's visions and plans as he navigates through this critical period. He promises to remain Levy Payer obsessed, recognizing a renewal of trust, leadership and responsibility, and it's crucial for those elements to propel AHDB forwards to play a crucial role in the UK's agricultural future. Isaac's just going to give a bit more of a background to the AHDB for those who perhaps aren't fully aware of the sterling work that the HDB does in the UK and also with the likes of exports internationally. And just to say that we're not going to talk about anything in respect of politics. There's a lot going on, but we're under purdah in the respect of this conversation. So we're going to be majoring on AHDB, Graham, his vision, the future. So Isaac, over to you. Just give a bit more of a background to the AHDB, please.
Thanks, Max. Yeah, good morning, everyone. Very nice to be here. Like Max said, I work for AHDB. We're a levy-funded organization, and we use that levy that we get from farmers and processors for a range of activities. We do things like market intelligence and data analysis. We look at some of the big picture issues in the industry. In fact, we've just launched the first of 4 reports looking at farm assurance schemes, this one on beef and lamb. We also sit behind a lot of the genetics, whether that's plant or animal genetics, either in doing some of the calculations and all of that in-house, or also being the independent broker, ensuring the companies play ball. Things like their recommended list for crops and cereals is something that people might well know. We also do knowledge exchange, so we do a lot of on-farm meetings, technical meetings. We have monitor farms, strategic farms, webinars, online technical tools, so a lot of information there for farmers to use. Like you mentioned, we do also do marketing. We do some TV ads, but a lot of adverts and campaigns on the likes of tube stations or some on-demand and catch-up television. We do, so like you mentioned, a lot on exports. In fact, an Awal that you had on last month, he's currently at Saudi Food, so putting some yes, and if you follow him on LinkedIn, he's in Saudi at the moment, so putting British produce on the world stage there. We're really stepping up on environment. About a week ago, we announced the environmental baselining scheme. Graham might want to say a bit more about that, so I won't steal his thunder on that. Then the bit that I lead on is called AgriLeader, and that's all about people. So, leadership, management, HR. Go and have a look at the AgriLeader labor lifecycle tools. There's a lot of information and useful tools like role profiles on there. So I nabbed sent our new boss, Graham, sent quite early on, I think, before he realized what he let himself in for. But we thought we'll give him a bit of time to, just about get his feet under the table. In fact, in 3 months, so hence this 90 days in office. I'm signed up to this thing called the Harvard Business Review, a free newsletter. So do sign up for that. That's really good. And in this, and there was a piece about President Obama, and he said this thing about, and it's a momentum game, and you've got to start as you mean to go on, and hence the title. So, very glad to have Graham here. I must say, since working for AHDB, it already feels like a different organization. It feels like we've got a bit of a spring in our step. So, Graham, welcome.
Graham, I've just got to ask, but and sorry, a bit cut across Isaac. Graham, what's your background? And had this role, as the CEO of AHDB, it's a very privileged position to have. But what's your background? How did you metamorphose yourself into this role of CEO of AHDB? Graham, what's your background, please?
So the short version of my background is working very closely, born and bred on a dairy farm up in the northeast of England. So right from a very young age, milking cows. I worked then for a mixed unit. So my early years were very much practical farming. So we had arable production, beef production. We had laying hens as well. So a real sort of truly mixed farm up in the northeast of England. So that really helped ground me and give me that sort of practical knowledge of farming. Then sort of looked beyond the farm gate. I took on a number of roles, but started work for what was Express Dairies. Then I then merged into Arla Foods, so very much working as what you'd call an agriculture manager there, so supporting farmers that supplied them. I then left and joined Tesco. So I sat in the hot seat at Tesco, spending time there in both the pork and poultry sector, beef and lamb, and also dairy as well. So before then returning to Arla and then ultimately heading up the overall agricultural team, supporting 8,500 farmers across 7 European countries. So I've sort of worked at all different elements within the supply chain, which has been fantastic knowledge and background for me. Also, it's, I've seen, I've been at times when, the industry's been absolutely flying. And I've also seen at times when it's been, specifically sort of under attack or under challenge as well. So, which has helped to sort of develop me as a leader. But, without a doubt, and you said it as well, it is a privilege to be at AHDB. It's a privilege to lead this organisation, and I'm so pleased to be now 3 months into it. And just listening to Isaac as well, it just makes you realise. I thought I actually knew AHDB. I've been born and bred into this industry and worked at various roles throughout it. But there's definitely a third of what AHDB do that I did not know. Until
the proverbial iceberg. Isaac, over to you.
What was your biggest surprise, Graham, on coming into the job that you didn't know that we do? I guess good and bad. So maybe what was your biggest surprises?
I think I suppose the work around the exports was certainly an area that, and I think the opportunities and that going forward was it's significant. So that is an area that I didn't realise. I think the R&D, the research and development, you talked about the recommended list, is 80 years old. It's been fundamental part of arable farmers for 80 years, and we've been very much at the heart of it. So I obviously knew about the recommended list, but the R&D area as well is certainly something that really stands out, along with the marketing, nutritional elements. There's a number of vast areas, but the level of detail and the expertise within the organisation is certainly absolutely phenomenal.
And I think we'll definitely come back on your vision of how do we get that work out much better and much more, because I think that I would 100% agree. One of our biggest weaknesses is telling people all the work that we do. Quite often, you'll have a conversation with a farmer and he said, well, you should be doing this. And actually, we're already doing it, but we're not getting that message across. So one of the things that when you've come in and the staff briefing saying, we've got to be Levy Payer obsessed, and you've mentioned that a few times. when you talk about being levy payer obsessed, what do you mean? And how do we get to that? And how do AHDB do that?
I think it's absolutely fundamental to us as an organisation. Our levy payers, we are there working on behalf of our levy payers day in, day out. And I think we do some fantastic work. So ensuring, but we're also recognising that as an industry, there's challenges out there. There's opportunities, but there's also challenges. So, ensuring that the levy payer is in the heartbeat of the organisation in how we approach the work we do, how we talk about what we do as well. I think it's so important. The previous organisation I worked for was owned by farmers. So I come from a career of working for farmers on behalf of farmers as well. So it certainly, which is why, again, I was excited to be joining as the CEO at AHDB. To me, I think when we talk about being levy payer obsessed, those are just words. What does that actually mean? I think it's how we effectively communicate our goals and our vision, ultimately our strategies to be able to deliver on behalf of them. So I think really communication is key. I've worked for an organisation where return on investment is key. So for every pound that you invest, what do you get back? And I think that is something that from the commercial background that I've had is certainly something that we should think more of. The return on investment where we're investing a levy payer money into the work that we do. To be able to achieve that, it's about looking at the structure and our delivery model to make sure that we're set up for success in being able to deliver for them. And that is certainly something that I'm looking at already. I've also implemented a business planning kind of process, which I've been part of throughout my career, which really helps me to ensure that we are absolutely laser focused on what our sectors are looking for, what they need us to prioritise, and also making sure that we've got the skills in the right area. Walking in their shoes. One thing I would say about AHDB is, talk about my minimal background within practical farming. The amount of people actually within the organisation that are farmers, that are levy payers themselves, I think it is really part of the culture of the organisation. That it is in the DNA. Now, what I would say is that what's also good is, I'm a real big fan on diversity and also diversity of different thinking. So, bringing new ideas and new thoughts in, I think is important. But we have got, without doubt, within the team that are working, really sort of close links, if not actual levy payers themselves. I think for me, building trust within for our levy payers is part of being obsessed as well. So your trust is really important to me. As a leader, working closely with those sector councils, gaining that trust. And I think some of the areas that we'll maybe talk a little bit about leadership, but where we demonstrate that leadership, where we step up and really work on behalf of them, that will only deliver a greater trust from our levy payers in the work that we do at AHDB. Within this as well, it's speed. I've worked for fast-moving organisations as well, so we need to fail fast, learn quickly, deliver. If it didn't, I've worked for organisations. If things didn't work one week, then what are you going to do to fix it next week? You didn't have time, and the speed and nature within a VUCA world as well, I think, is really recognising that we do need to move quicker, and we do need to make the changes quite quickly. But what I would say is it's not easy, and I think in my career, so if I took up my previous role, I was managing a team that managed 8,500 farmers across 7 different countries, different languages, different cultures, different legislation, different ways, but they were centered around that common goal and that common theme. And I think regardless, recognizing that we have different sectors, we have different systems as well, it's the opportunity around centering all of our levy payers around that common goal, that common vision, I think is something that is really important.
On the whole, sorry, go for it, Max.
I was just going to say, I feel very privileged, Graham, Isaac, in the work that I do with the AHDB, especially with the Agri Leader Forum conferences that I've attended for the last 2 years. Graham, I think that's something that we do need to state, that the AHDB teams are so. I was trying to think of a comparison. If you ever have the privilege of going to a conference with accountants, you don't really understand their world, and they don't really understand your world of business. When you go to an AHDB conference, there's so many people within the AHDB who have been involved or are still involved in practical farming, so they understand the issues that farmers who are attending those conferences have, and where the AHDB team are very good at challenging those farmers about thinking differently, about being innovative, about being collaborative. So I just want to give a big shout out. I got no other reason to say this. That I think it will be beneficial to the levy payers that if you don't get involved in these conferences, or just keep continuously checking on the social media that has just spiked positively in the last 90 days since Graham's coming in. There's so much information, positive information there, and you've got to be curious. And Isaac, we said this in so many of these broadcasts, haven't you? You have to be curious, have open ears, open eyes, because then things will start to happen. You'll sort of start to create your own luck, Isaac, won't you? If you could just hear this information, and there does seem to be this ongoing positivity information as we go through these highs and lows that Graham has described about his career within agriculture ongoing. Isaac, is it all about communication?
I think it's a lot about communication, Vincent. I won't go on too long about languages, but I love languages, and in the end, that is all we've got really. So people on how to communicate. So yeah, I do think it's very much about communication and getting that much better. Graham, what do you think?
Just jumping in there as well, what I would say is that the first 90 days is absolutely, it's a really important time for any leader joining a new organization in a new role. It gives you the opportunity to come in with a different pair of eyes, a different lens, looking at things as well. I think the most important thing, and it's what I've been doing in the first 90 days, and it's something that we will need to continue to do, and we will be doing as an organization, is listen. Mm-hmm. Is listen. What are people trying to say, and understanding what are they really trying to tell us? Because sometimes going, a couple of levels underneath, what is really happening here? What are you really trying to tell me? And I've had some fantastic conversations. I had some great conversations before even joining the role, but that first 90 days is a real sort of magical period, I think, with any leader, and listening is absolutely key to our success.
Give us some of the insights of that, some conversation. How do we better understand levy payers? We obviously listen to them, but yes, and then how do we go about addressing those needs? So from the conversations that you've had, how do we go about as an organization addressing those needs?
Well, I think in one of my 4 sort of cornerstones to success that I'm sort of laying out within the organization, it is around leadership. So there's this general sense that as an industry, is where we are now, that the industry needs a really strong, leadership-driven, laser-focused AHDB now more than ever. So I really believe that when we step up, when we are showing brave leadership, that's what people are telling me. That's what we want to see: brave leadership and being focused on what we need to deliver. And that, it's also prioritization as well. But that's, everybody is sort of encouraged me and is encouraging AHDB as an organization. Go for it. Now's your time. Now's your chance. Go for it. And that's what we're going to do.
Yeah. So
we can't be all things to all people. How do we prioritize, like you said there, and who and how do we collaborate with? Because I genuinely believe if we think win-win, and if we work together with people, we can achieve so much more than trying to do it all on our own. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I think it's a difficult one, because there's so many areas that we can prioritize, and there's so many different thinking. I think what I would say is it's knowing what our strengths are and playing to our strengths. I, as a leader, once worked a part of my career where I was identified of what I was good at and then what I wasn't good at. And so then I was then told you this is what you now need to work on, what you're not good at, which I think is totally wrong, by the way, because I have my strengths, and it's about developing a team around you that everybody plays to their strengths. So if I then take that to another level, recognizing the strengths that AHDB can bring to British food and farming, and recognizing that there are others that will have strengths in different areas. Some of the topics that we're going to, we're focusing on are huge, and AHDB can't solve them by themselves, but it's how we work in collaboration with others and using the strength of AHDB. We're not a commercial organization. We're independent. We're evidence-based. We're fact-based. We're data-driven. Those areas are really key to who we are, but also recognizing that we need others and different strengths across the organization. So it's collaboration. I think, I talk about as making sure that we're really in the room. We're present in the room. We're demonstrating leadership in the room. We're not an invited guest, and I think I've talked about this in the past as well. And I'm starting to see that change already, and that's where I want this organisation to be. But to be able to do that, recognising our strengths and working with others where their strengths are.
Graham, the inevitable question on this, because I think it's fantastic that what you've talked about, the four cornerstones coming in, doing the 90 days, and that's brilliant because of what you've learned within industry and within one of the top UK retailers. Success. What does success look like for you and your colleagues at the AHDB 3 years, 5 years out, under the route that you want to go? What does success look like, please?
So I think for me, that AHDB as an organisation has played its role in, I suppose, I've talked in the past, it's played its role in helping to develop where I think, British food and farming is a world-class food and farming industry. We have played our part. And I also think, talking about changing the story of British agriculture, and that's what I want us to be a part of, that we have a fantastic story, don't get me wrong, but there are noises out there, and I think we've got a fantastic story to tell. So if we were talking in 3 years' time, that the work that we've done has helped to develop British food and farming into a world-class food and farming industry, whilst at the same time helping to change the story. And I think it's also about pride. I want people within my organisation to feel proud of what they do day in, day out. And I would like our Levy Payers to be proud of the work that we do as well. Continue to challenge us, because that's what we're there for, but be proud of the work that we do, and also the wider industry as well.
Okay, and just on that side, get it. But you, Isaac, and the rest of your colleagues, you can't do it alone. This has got to be collaborative with the Levy Payers. What do you need from the Levy Payers to help create this success, please?
So I suppose from my perspective, it's we talked about listening. We need to listen. We need to continue to listen, and we'll continue to do that. We need the Levy Payers on our side. I think to be able to do that, we need to demonstrate that the work we're doing is benefiting them. It's adding value to them. That will naturally build that trust. So I think it's a little bit of a sort of a sequence of events, milestones that we'll go through that will naturally, by gaining that greater trust and alignment, and then ultimately also challenges. We are there to deliver on behalf of our Levy Payers as an organisation. So the future of our success is relying on us all working together as one team. No matter where you are in the organisation, no matter where you are from a Levy Payer perspective, I'm very much a team player, and that's what I expect. And so all working together, I tell you what, I wouldn't like to bet against a force, that sort of team ethos. Our Levy Payers, AHDB as an organisation, you wouldn't bet against us.
Just before we're finishing off on leadership, we've had a question in from Tony, who might have missed the start, but yes, AHDB is entering PERDA. But it's also a reminder for everybody else watching and listening in. Do send in your questions, and we'll try and answer some of those. You talk a lot about leadership, Graham. And how do you measure leaderships, and how will we know when we are successful in that and leadership? What would be your champagne moment, if you like?
So I suppose the effectiveness of leadership is, I suppose, it's looking at how. I suppose one thing that I've introduced in the organisation is a DAC model, and it was I can't take credit for it. It was actually a lady called Mariana Living, who I've worked with in the past. She's a leadership coach that's supported me in my career for a number of years. It doesn't sound that complicated, but the effectiveness of this is it's a really powerful tool. So DSE, so this is about direction, alignment, and commitment. So really sort of setting the direction of the organization, where we're going, what we're here to do, and how we're going to do it. Then agreeing on the alignment. And I think that is, I've seen examples where you think we're aligned, but actually we're not. People, and you know, you walk out of a room and you think, right, we all agreed that. But recognizing that some people need a little bit of time just to reflect on it. And I've learned in my own career in the past where you think everybody's on side, but then you soon realize that you're not. So alignment is so important, because then the final element is about commitment. And so building that commitment, how we motivate, how we create that, I suppose, those positive emotions in the organization, and that we're committed to that. So I think in answer to your question, the DAC model will help us within that. It's also about setting, you know, those, how will we measure our success, setting the goals, the objectives, being clear on them, being transparent with them as well, with the board, with our sector councils, with Levy Payers as well. I think that's important. Getting feedback as we go through this is really important. So making sure that you know, that is a key measure, and also, you know, looking at some of the financial metrics as well. I talked about that return on investment. I think that's really an important thing, one that we should never forget.
Great, well done. There's a great slide from Cranfield University that shows that those companies that invest in training development see far better turnover, far better profitability, far better retention. And actually, what you've just said with that lovely model, DAC, to deploy that into the AHDB and the Levy Payers, you can see how all-encompassing that's going to help not just the AHDB, but the Levy Payers and the whole sector as a whole.
I couldn't agree more. And you know, one thing that I would say is that as an organisation, one thing that I have noticed is and recognised since walking through the doors, there's a team there that is absolutely raring to go.
Excellent.
They are absolutely, you know, they're committed. They're 100%, and you know, they for various reasons, you know, landing in, you know, the leadership, putting that direction into the organisation, it's just, you know, they are fully charged, and it's a really exciting time. For the organisation, and as an industry, I'm really excited, and you know, it's been fantastic.
You've said that leads nicely into one of the areas that you talk about, is this expertise. We have got a lot of expertise in various areas, you know, environment, marketing, genetics, business, all of those. But how do we better engage with our farmers, and how do we help them capitalize on those opportunities that you mentioned?
So I think on the expertise, one thing that I have seen, and I'm really as a leader, what's really important to me is that we encourage different thinking. We encourage diversity, inclusion. We include diversity of thinking as well. When I look across the organisation, there is some amazing talent, and I'll be honest with you, maybe talent that isn't necessarily getting the oxygen, or hasn't been getting the oxygen, the voice, the share of voice. So I think one thing that's really important is recognizing the talent, but also that new talent, or you know, talent that hasn't necessarily had that share of voice. I'm going to champion them right the way up, because I think that's so important. So I think the opportunity to demonstrate our expertise is absolutely there. We've got some fantastic people that work for us. I want to be able to create a culture and an organization where we attract the very best talent across the organization. They want to be part of us. This is the place where, as part of your career, you can get on and you can deliver some fantastic work. It's a real purposeful organization, but it's also an organization that isn't constrained by levels, or that we it's that encouraging of diversity of thought, and I think that's I'm seeing it already, and I've had some fantastic conversations with some people that have just loved the really appreciated the opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. I was lucky enough to interview Nick Wheeler, who's the owner and entrepreneur of Charles Titworth Shirts, and he absolutely hates the whole hierarchy system. And he says so much of his good ideas come from that shop floor people that interact with customers on a daily basis. So so it's really encouraging as an employee to hear that.
I was taught, if it's not broken, then break it. So never rest on your laurels. And I'm quite I'm anxious to see change, and I'm motivated to see and drive change, and drive that within the people and the culture as well.
Graham, here's an interesting one. Consumer. So we've talked about the AHDB. To me, it's not been a sleeping giant. All the foundations have been there. They just needed someone like yourself, Isaac, and your colleagues to take it through to and be not very optimistic. You could see the success that you're going to have within the trade. The consumer. It feels like the timing is so fortuitous. It's everywhere I go, everyone's talking about a particular TV series involving a man and a chap on a tractor, which is brilliant, because it's helping this sector. But the consumer, is it your role? Is it Isaac's role? Is it your colleague's role to also positively influence the consumer? You both know the stats. 6 out of 10 kids don't know where fruit and veg comes from. We have this bigger disconnect going on with the farming sector. Is this in your, what would the Americans say, Graham, in your wheelhouse to also positively influence the consumer under your leadership with your colleagues at the AHDB? Are you looking to do more with the consumer, Graham?
So I think what's really important, I suppose, the ethos of the organisation is being evidence-based, data-driven. So from our point of view, and I think what we're starting to see, so we do some fantastic work on nutrition with schools. We've got the teams out in the last 24 hours at events.
Saw that, brilliant, yeah.
So it is out there. And that's a really sort of connecting and sharing the evidence behind it. And so absolutely, that's where we have a role to play. The reputation within the sectors and the work that we do is so important. So we do have a role. We do have a role to demonstrate through evidence-based, put the facts on the table. And I think we do some fantastic work. We need to do more. To sort of make sure that is really coming across, and supporting consumers, retailers as well, by being that evidence-based organisation.
To put you on the spot, Graham, were there any areas that we don't get involved in that surprised you? Is there areas that you feel we should take up a more of a leadership role, or get more involved in?
I think if we talk the announcement of the baselining announcement that we made last week, I think it's been a fantastic announcement. It's gone down really well. The work that we do and have been starting to do around the environment, that again is AHDB at its best. So we've launched a pilot. We're going to work with 170 farms, really looking at the sort of balance sheet of environmental best practice. So not just carbon, but the other elements there as well. So I think that work around the environment, work around data, custodianship, management, I think those are areas that we're probably not saying that we're underplaying, but I think there's definitely opportunities for us to grow further. But I think there's lots of areas. I think there's, even in the areas that we work, there's an opportunity for us to step up that extra level, 1 or 2 levels. But I would say, the environment, it's I also put my feet in the of farmers. It can be a worrying time for farmers, not just because of what's potentially out there, but actually farming within climatic changes. We've seen over recent weeks the impact that we're having. You up in the north of England, a deluge of water just in the last 24 hours that's taken us back. So supporting farmers, farming more volatile climatic changes, I think is also really important. So the environment will be one area in answer to your question, Isaac.
So I was just looking the numbers up. So we've had a great uptake on that. So if you're a farmer and you want to get involved in the environmental baselining, there's actually only this is an expression of interest at the moment. But do get your name down, because some of those places are filling up quite fast just in a week. So it definitely feels like there's a great appetite for that. So well done to everybody in the environment team and everybody else putting the message out there.
Jed's students, I've got Ewan from Harper Adams. Max, half a dozen of us have just dialed in to watch Graham. Really enthused. How can we as students get more involved with the AHDB? Just to say that there are other institutions out there equally as good as Harper Adams, Newcastle, Cirencester, and Reading. But it's a really good point, Graham, because sometimes the likes of the AHDB, it could have been accused of just looking at more the mature farmer, but we've got to encourage the younger generation and get them early, because they're going to be influencers. They're going to all replace us eventually. Graham, what's your thought about students? How can we get them more involved with the AHDB, please?
So I suppose one thing that I'm looking at is about I suppose employee value proposition. So thinking, what is the that EVP for people that are looking to develop their career, and what are the opportunities around that, secondments, etc. How can we make it easier, and the doors that are our doors are open to opportunities like that, so that people can play a part in the future success of AHDB. So without a doubt, we absolutely need to work closely with our future leaders, and they need to help us. So and I think the Agri Leader program is an example of that, where we can work together and think differently. And I think again, those voices are so important to us. So I think I don't have all the answers today, but
of course not.
I'm back to me. I'm listening to it as well. So we need to get this right, and I think that student community, how they can help us. I want to hear more.
Yeah, and just add to the mix. I'm chairing MDS annual conference later in June, and one of the trainees has said, "Can Graham come and talk to the MDS conference? If not this year, next year." So I think. And again, Management Development Services, they have 60 trainees coming through and lots of comments and in the likes of Tesco's, and so yes, that'd be great to get the future generation fully engaged with the AHDB now, so that they fulfill their career ongoing with the AHDB.
If I can make it work in my diary, I'd love to be able to do that, because one thing that I'm really enjoying is the opportunity to share the great work that the AHDB team, working closely with our sectors, our sector councils. It's a fantastic story, and I love telling it. I've been enjoying telling it, and for those that maybe follow me a little bit on social media, you'll see, because it's quite an easy story to tell. There isn't a week that goes by where it's like, we've done this, we've achieved that, it's a fantastic organisation. I'm absolutely loving it.
Yeah, you don't see many chief executives wearing pinnies, cooking with fresh food, do you? All credit to you. Go on, Isaac.
Yeah, no. So I love Graham's profile on there, and Mark and I always talk about this varied diet that we need to have available for farmers and levy payers and the public, because what you might like and somebody else might not. So it's just mixing it up and getting out there in so many different ways rather than being stuck in our way. So I guess, Graham, sort of from an innovation side and from getting new ideas in. So what's your thoughts on that for AHDB?
So I suppose one of the things that I'm looking at within the organisation is a concept around a change leaders forum. It's something that I've worked with in the past, and it's about pulling together a group of colleagues across the organisation, where the opportunity to give them open spaces to think differently, to challenge us, to challenge how we can do things better, to how we can simplify. I think the opportunity around that Change Leaders Forum is something that's worked for me in the past in my previous career, and it's certainly something that I'm encouraging within the organisation. It's I can sometimes be a little bit impatient, and I like to see things happen quite quickly. Maybe that's just how I've had my career. It's I enjoy working hard. I've said this in the past. My grandfather, if I was ever caught with my hands in my pockets, how could you possibly do a day's work when you've got your hands in your pockets? So I enjoy working hard. I enjoy operating at speed, but I also need to recognise that what's also important is you need to bring people with you on that journey, and that you need to do that in the right way. But Change Leaders Forum, and then how we can then encourage that, not just within the organisation, but across the industry, is something that would be very exciting.
Let's explore that a bit more. So, you're talking about bringing the industry and farmers. There are some farmers that are critical of what we do. How do we get those people on board? How do we show value to some of our critics and get them on side? And what would you say to them?
I think by demonstrating doing, I think is key. So demonstrating that we are absolutely working on their behalf. We're on their side. We're on the same team here, but we are demonstrating leadership, and I think naturally that will then build that trust back to that cascade effect. That will naturally come. But it's about being open and being listened. I like visible leadership. I'm out there in the organisation. I'm out there listening, and it was a pig and poultry last week as well. So I think just making yourself available and making us as an organisation available and being willing to listen and taking on board their thoughts and the help. In some respects, there's opportunities where they help us to get better. We should always be accepting that. But that always on listening as an organisation will definitely is what we're going to be doing. What we have done, obviously recognising the levy increase that was achieved, and that was part of a listening exercise as well. So I think that set the foundations. We absolutely need and will be doing more of that.
Graham, collaboration. You look at the great work that you did within Tesco. Do you think there's going to be more collaboration with the AHDB and the end consumer, the end supplier, and that could you have AHDB relationships with key retailers to create that to shorten the supply chain? What's that expression, gents? That there's so much profitability held up within the supply chain. Could the AHDB create more collaboration from the farmer to the end consumer to speed up that supply chain, or is that not your remit, or is that something that you might look to get involved with in the future? What do you think, Graham?
But I think in some respects we're doing that to a degree, in where we've got a fantastic team with it across marketing that bring in consumer insights that then helping to sort of direct the strategy of AHDB. Our Levy Payer, so helps with our reputational work, helps with our nutritional work as well. So that in many respects that's also happening already. Brilliant. Always the opportunities to do more, but. Going back to my point, it's recognising the strength of everybody within the food and farming exercise and making sure that AHDB, we're playing our part.
Yeah, because I suppose that's one positive issue that we got within agriculture. That agriculture has always been seen as fairly fragmented because of just the nature of farms in comparison to other sectors. And I suppose that's, Graham, I said that's why we need the glue of the AHDB, especially with the strong leadership, to stop that fragmentation, give that information, and speed up that whole supply chain to the benefit of the farmer, but also to the consumer. Isaac, am I right?
Yeah, listen, I definitely think. I do love this whole, Graham's words and thoughts around some culture and people and leadership. I mean, and obviously as agri leader and very much people focused, that is so great. Graham, so explain a bit more, and what success stories have you seen in the past for the company that is really some people focus and some focus on that culture, and what benefits does it bring to a company?
So, within one of my cornerstones, culture and people is absolute. So we need to deliver for our Levy Payers. We need to demonstrate industry leadership. To be able to do that, it's about our people. It's about our culture as well. So it's something that I personally feel really passionate about. And I've worked in roles where you get that right, and my goodness me, you see some fantastic results. And that's what I'm really excited about. There's definitely work to do at AHDB on strengthening and developing our culture around our people. One thing that I did in a previous role, and it's that outside looking in, and we actually went to YouTube. So the organisation, no relation to YouTube, but we went through the doors of YouTube, spent a day with YouTube, and it was an industry that was very different to what we did. It was an unbelievable experience having spent a day with the team in London at YouTube. It just gets you to think very, very differently. And I think so those outside in experiences, that knowledge, learning, shared learning from others, I think is really important. Will bring some sort of fresh thinking into the organisation. But what it ultimately resulted in the work that they were doing is that it improved the employee engagement and the satisfaction within the organisation. So they were more engaged with what they were doing. It actually, that shared thinking, the work that we're doing, increased innovation and creativity between teams. They weren't silo thinking. And I think sometimes in what I've seen, I think we need to break down some silos at AHDB. If I'm perfectly honest, Isaac. So we need to break down that thinking. And I think there was just a sense of a strong community trust within the organisation, that community feeling that the previous role that I had, you walk through the doors and on the side of the wall it said "We are family," and it was it didn't what those words meant really meant you were part of a family, and there's good families we go through good points and you go through difficult points, but we're family. And we always do it together. And I think little things like that, little touches, just set the tone of an organisation, and it certainly made me gave me a warm feeling knowing that I had colleagues around me that would look upon each other as being part of their family.
I've realized that whole thing, people will forget what you say, but people will remember how you made them feel. So I think that is done by those little things. It's not the big gestures, it's the little things. I absolutely love, what you said, going to YouTube. I mean, Max, that's what the success of Talking Leaders has been. We've unashamed plug of the previous series. We've had people on here that help people put people on the moon. We've had some Olympic skiers, and I think there's so much we can learn by listening to people, and especially you talked right at the start about diversity. The more diverse the thinking, the almost the furthest away somebody is from you and their thinking, the more you can learn from that. So I really think that is so positive and so encouraging for us as an organisation going forward.
One thing I do need to fix as part of the organisation, one thing I realised this on week one, is I need to change AHDB, and I'm on this mission. I'm on a personal mission to change AHDB into proper tea drinkers, because they don't drink Yorkshire tea. So I actually handed out Yorkshire tea bags. So I'm on a personal mission to turn AHDB colleagues into proper tea drinkers.
Just for those dialed in internationally, Yorkshire tea is a bit like Driffield. Driffield is a very renowned town in Yorkshire. It's the centre of the universe, but Yorkshire tea is not made in Yorkshire. But we'll keep that as a secret. Graham, question from a large farmer in Norfolk. Graham, can you confirm that agriculture is the best sector in the UK to work in, if not the world? Cool.
Absolutely. And agriculture and industry as an industry, it's changing so quickly that the opportunities for the different roles, and it's a massively exciting time. In some respects, I wish I could go back sometime, a few years as well, and start again. Absolutely, it's a really exciting time, and I want to make sure that from an AHDB perspective, we're playing our part in that.
Yeah.
What a way a note to finish on things. And Max, As an employee of AHDB, I'm really encouraged having Graham in this role. I think we're feeling the difference, and the momentum is starting to build. And like Graham said, if we can all work together, and we are such a strong force. So thank you very much for coming on today, Graham. If we're back here, and we will have you back here in maybe a couple of years' time, what would be that absolute success? What would make us, we'll maybe have it later in the day and have a champagne to pop. And what would be that ultimate success for you?
Well, we'll be having Yorkshire tea, Isaac. It's for me, the compelling reasons why I joined was being that force for good with British food and farming. Yeah, I've got export teams out there that are that are putting British food on the plates of consumers around the world, and they're doing that because of the values that British food and farming has, and they want to consume that. So for me, it is about that world-class food and farming industry, changing that story of British agriculture. Those are the things that in a few years' time to sit down and have that would be absolutely fantastic. But also to do it as you started, with a spring in our step, a smile on our face, and we do it together as one team.
There we go, everyone. Graham, I'm getting multiple messages in. Everyone is very, very enthusiastic by what they've heard from yourself and Isaac. The future of the AHDB is so bright, we all need to wear shades. Says, who's that from? That's from someone in East Suffolk. So Graham, well done. It's not going to be an easy journey. There's a lot going on. Weather, everything that is going on in the world. But I think we all know that we're very privileged to be involved in the best sector, involved in industry, because we're all doing good, aren't we? All of our farmer growers who dialed in are growing the health of the nation, and they need the likes of the AHDB to give them that expertise, that alignment, the DAC. Just, Graham, wrap up for us and just explain to us again DAC and why we need to adopt this as you're adopting it within the AHDB. Tell us about the DAC, just to wrap up.
So very, very, very quickly, and as I say, it was Mariana that really brought this to light with me. Direction. So setting the direction. What are we doing? Why should we do it? So very clear direction, so that we're focused on what are our North Stars. So set the direction, and that's how I like to lead. Alignment, making sure we're fully aligned as an organisation behind that direction. That we're all aligned. We've got the right structures, processes exactly in place to be able to deliver that direction. And then it's about commitment. Everybody is committed. Everybody has got two hands on the oars in the boat, and we're all rowing in the same direction. So direction, alignment, commitment, really easy, but it's been quite revolutionary in my career, because when you get that set right, it's everybody knows what they're doing and why they're doing it, and it becomes quite an exciting time.
Excellent. And Isaac, just wrap up, read out that last point from an anonymous attendee.
What on the chat?
Yep,
I've missed it.
And they say, as an AHDB field-based employee, I bring my own Yorkshire tea bags to head office. so well done, Graham. You're brilliant. Isaac, you're brilliant.
Thank you very much, Graham. Thanks for coming on.
Look forward to the AHDB. Well done, everyone.